Hello, welcome to Jimmy on the Saddle, a real estate show on YouTube. My name is Jimmy Cho. I'm a cyclist who works as a realtor at eXp Realty. Are you late on your rent payment because of this pandemic? Or are you missing any mortgage payment on your income property because you cannot collect the rent on time? If so, you need to hear what we are going to discuss with attorney Sang Lee today. The media is pointing out high unemployment and mortgage delinquency rate caused by COVID-19 pandemic. And it is quite obvious that we are going to face a difficult time in real estate market when the government protections expires in 2000. So today, we are going to invite attorney Sang Lee and hear about newly imposed California tenant protection law because it will guide both landlord and tenant in a situation when tenant cannot make a rent on time. Hi Sang, I know that you have a unique career before you became a lawyer. Would you like to share that with us?
Yes, I had a unique career. I was an agent for the Internal Revenue Service. I was an auditor examining tax returns of taxpayers.
Okay, Sang, you must be getting a lot of calls from your client about tenants not making any rent or landlord has to evict the tenant during this COVID period.
Correct. Actually, that's probably the largest amount of calls that I get, both from landlords and tenants.
And I learned that there are some bills that have been passed. That's called AB1482 and AB3088 regarding landlord and tenant relationship. What do you advise to your client?
Yes, the first thing I tell my clients, the landlord's clients, when they call me is to talk to the tenants first, see how much they can pay, and resolve it that way. Because any dispute, even before the pandemic, if there's any kind of a breach of the lease agreement or any kind of dispute, the best way to do is to sort of talk to each other and resolve it between them. And now under this pandemic situation, is even more important that the parties actually understand the other side's situation and come up with a solution that works for both of them. Any money is better than nothing from the landlord's point of view, and from the tenant's point of view, the AB3088 does not forgive the rent payment forever.
Right.
You do have to make up those payments that you did not make.
Right.
You did not make at some point. So it's better for the tenant to work out a reasonable solution as it is for the landlords to do the same thing.
I see.
So that is the best approach at this point, in my opinion. And the landlord also have obligation to the bank. They usually have a hefty mortgage that they carry.
Right.
So as much as tenants are suffering, the landlords are suffering as well.
Right.
But this AB 3088 is basically temporary measure to handle or deal with these issues during the pandemic. Because of the fact that this regulation or this law is passed without a lot of feedback from the legal community, this AB 3088 has a lot of ambiguity and uncertainty.
Right.
Because of that, it's very difficult for landlords to decide whether they have met all the requirements to be able to evict tenants during this pandemic period, in my opinion.
The law says it was rushed, so it may conflict with local ordinance. They know that this law was made not with deep consideration of legal communities
and it was inevitable. The whole pandemic broke out quite suddenly.
Yes.
So any kind of measures that we are taking to fight back this pandemic cannot be done in a leisurely manner. Everything was rushed. This measure was basically done to protect tenants, allowing them to stay where they are. And part of it is that it requires tenants to declare that their income went down a lot during this pandemic period. In effect, all they have to do is just to sign the declaration, and that will stop landlords from basically filing an unlawful detainer. So yes, from the landlord's point of view, it's extremely difficult to start an unlawful detainer action.
I see. So you think it's much wiser to solve this problem with landlord and tenant by
Correct.
themselves.
The existing law has very limited effectiveness in dealing with this kind of situation. I think it's named the Tenant Relief Act, and obviously, as the name suggests, the act is to basically relieve tenants from this obligation to pay the rent, allowing them to stay even when they don't pay the rent. So that's the whole point of the act. It has been pretty devastating for some of the landlords for
Right.
not being able to collect any rent.
And there are some mortgage forbearance program for landlords
That's
too, right?
that's true. So the first thing that I advise my clients and my landlord's clients to do, and a lot of them have been doing it successfully, is to basically go to their banks and restructure their mortgage payments. Some of them were able to restructure it so that they just pay the interest for next year or two, and then they resume the regular payment. Otherwise, some of my clients were able to not pay altogether, any mortgage for like 6 months or longer period. So yes, there are ways that landlords can reduce their burden of paying the mortgage.
So the moratorium will end in January 31st, 2021?
Right now, that's what it says, but I'm sure everything is fluid right now. The COVID-19 virus is now actually we're talking about a second wave. So I'm not sure whether it will actually expire on January 31st as it says currently. But whenever it expires, I guess landlords do not have a choice other than to wait until it expires.
I see. There are tenant protection law newly imposed this year. Even though there are some ways landlord can evict a non-paying tenant, however, it's wiser to solve that problem with the tenant, to each other, or wait until next year when moratorium ends. Okay, Singli, thank you so much for your advice. It was very helpful for our audience.
Thank you for inviting me, and actually it was helpful for me too.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.